And now let's get to my guest. My first guest is Sci-Fi Talk community member Roger Scheck, and a movie and director and writer. In his debut film, Nobody Loves Alice, he wrote a story about a young woman played wonderfully by a really fascinating newcomer, Nitzan Mager. This girl seems like shy and very withdrawn, but is also very troubled and has a problem with men. She tends to kidnap them and then eventually torture them and kill them. Interesting. Here's Roger Scheck, the talented young director of Nobody Loves Alice, talking to us, or talking to me as he recently did, about that particular film and his career a little bit, and we'll get to meet who I think is a talented and upcoming director. Here's Roger Scheck. You know, what I was really impressed about this movie is that you went more towards the psychological elements, but still had the horror elements in there as well. So it wasn't like a straight-out slasher movie. It actually had a plot behind it. You know, I'll tell you about some of the things it reminds me of. But, you know, I wanted to hear what your philosophy was when you were writing the script for this film.
I had written about 4 feature films previous to that, and I had always written crime dramas. And I couldn't afford to run around in the streets with guns, is what it came down to. So I went back to my roots, which is where I started, was horror films. I really don't like the rap that my film has received as a torture porn, because it's not. And I'm really actually sick of that term, to tell you the truth, because go to meninpain.com if you want to see torture porn. That's not, I mean, there's a lot of artistic merit to my film, I feel like. I knew I needed to do 3 things with this film. The first being I knew I needed to write a female lead. I had not done that yet. I knew I needed to tell a love story. I had not done that yet. And I knew that I could probably sell a horror film. So I started making movies because of Last House on the Left. So I went back to my roots. I was really heavily influenced by Takashi Miike at a point in time when I wrote it. So I was looking for a story I could tell. Mm-hmm. I loved the style of the Asian horror. Mm-hmm. It basically came to me at work one day. I was waiting tables, and my boss answered the phone, and there was a woman on the other end of the phone saying, "I think you're really cute. I was in there earlier. You were so sweet to me. I would love to meet you outside of work." And being the manager of the restaurant, he had to be cordial and say, "Look, I can't do that, but why don't you come in? I'll buy you a glass of wine and we'll talk. I just have to tell you I have a girlfriend." So he hangs up the phone and told me what happened and said, "That's really weird." 2 seconds later, the phone rings and it's his girlfriend saying, "That was my friend. I was testing to see if you'd cheat on me." So in that part of the movie is 100% real. So I went home and it hit me. Nobody Loves Alice. This is the story. You know, my influences include stuff like Psycho, where there's not a kill for 40 minutes and then there's no other kills throughout the movie.
Right.
But it's considered one of the greatest horror films of all time.
That's right.
I don't like the rap that horror has received recently. If it doesn't have breath and a kill every 8 minutes, it's not a horror film. Mm-hmm. So I tried to do more of a classic thing. One of the reasons I chose to shy away from some of the horror was because I believe the human mind is so much more potent than the human eyes. If I show you a horrific thing, you see it. If I kind of allude to it and then cut to a scream and then cut away to a blood splatter on the wall, the human mind can make up the rest, and it suddenly becomes much more gory and offensive, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which has virtually no blood and no violence, considered one of the most disturbing films, most violent films of all time. I can't tell you the amount of people I've talked to that have said, "You see the hook go in her, you see the hook go in her," and you don't. It's completely, these people saw it in 1976 when it was released, and you know, their mind has made up this image that isn't in the film. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that's why I went that way with the film, really.
Well, I was, I mean, I would, torture porn it's to me out of left field in regards to this film, because I didn't see it at all like that. It's not like that at all, and it's not, she's not doing it for sensationalism. There is reasons why Alice does what she does, from what I interpreted, and it does remind me very much of Psycho. I mean, she literally could have been Norman Bates' girlfriend very easily, and credit Nislan for her performance. I mean, she was just, I mean, she really injected, that she did so many things. If you watch the special features with her, you really see her the way she is, and she's bright and bubbly and very attractive. Yet somehow she was able to do a lot of things physically to make her a little plainer, a little bit, subdued, and yet you saw that there was something strange and really, almost evil underneath the surface to her. And credit you for finding her. I mean, that's she really was the casting coup of the movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and she'll like to hear that. She's definitely been the consistency amongst critics and just general viewers.
Mm-hmm.
She is a phenomenal actress, and I have a feeling she has a amazing career ahead of her.
Oh, I agree.
So I wish her all the best, and I have plans to use her from now on out, so I'll always have a place for her.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear that. No, she really sold it to me and really conveyed, I mean, like I said, she just, in the performance, just little things that she did, that was really good. And, the other actors, Philip Ward, you got to credit him, because he in some ways he had a difficult part, because he had to literally stay in one position most of the film, and credit him for doing that. And also he had to convey his horror as to what is being done to him in so many different ways, and yet he couldn't do it the way other actors could physically. He just had to, in his voice, and not even with dialogue. So I credit him for that.
Philip is a very talented actor. I recently just shot a 5-minute piece to a TV pilot that we've written. A friend of mine, Kyle Osborne, wrote, and I've written a lot of projects with him. And Philip he was great in Nobody Loves Alice, and he just gets better every time I work with him. He's a very talented individual, and I can't wait to see where he goes. I have a horror film that I have written with a couple friends called Written in Blood that stars Philip Ward.
Oh, cool.
Everything goes right, and he really, really gets to shine and be evil in this one.
Hi, this is Alan Ruck, and you're listening to Sci-Fi Talk, and I am an itinerant Caucasian theater worker.
He gets his revenge a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. He's a bad character.
Now, and you have the, I guess you could say, the role that was played in the original Psycho. The woman looking for her man who's missing, and that's Amanda Taylor. She did a really fine job, and again, she has a difficult part too, because she kind of starts as somebody who knows she's going to get engaged, and then everything kind of falls apart for her. Comment on how how you felt she did for you.
I think Amanda did a phenomenal job. I think everybody in the cast did an amazing job, considering the circumstances, considering the talent level at the time. I loved working with Amanda. She was very easy to direct. I think she played the part well. Any critiques I have on anybody in the film, honestly, is I take 99% of the credit for that, because I was a little green. We shot in 12 days. I was producing, I was catering it. I was wearing a lot of hats, so some things slipped by me that I didn't see until we started editing it. Other than that, I think she did a phenomenal job. I loved working with her, and I'd work with her again. She's actually, no spoiler alerts, but we've written a sequel, and it's actually a trilogy.
Oh, cool.
So Amanda comes back in 2. Nathan comes back. Philip comes back. It's a different film, but I really am excited about making that.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, it certainly looked like this was it. That it was a standalone, but obviously you have something else up your sleeve, so to speak. So that should be interesting. Cool.
It started out as a standalone, and then we got so many. I decided that with a track record of Nobody Loves Alice, I already have a character that has a fan base that I can, push even further.